So, online professional development is our topic today, and my question is, so as an educator, it's often where do I start? And when you look at online professional development and just your day of teaching, have you ever felt this way where it just seems like there's more work to do in any given day than you have time to do? You often feel overwhelmed as an educator at all the things that you have to get in. So let's take a look at what I'm not sure in India how education works, but a day of teaching in America can be pretty hectic. Before work, and I'm sure it's similar for you guys, that there's the family you have to take care of. You have to get them off to school, feed them breakfast, sometimes running it into doing a before school program. So the day begins very hectic and continues on from there, where you have your daily prep, where before you even begin the school day, you're maybe running over to a photocopy machine if you're needing to run off some paperwork for the students to use. If you're not completely digital yet, you're trying to get that work in. You're trying to get the classroom set up for any assignments or activities that will go on for the day. Then you have your normal classroom schedule, which for us here in America, if you're an elementary school teacher, you're talking about 5 to 6 classes a day, a planning period, and your day is over. So you only have usually about an hour, if you're lucky, 45 minutes sometimes, to have a planning period. So on your planning period, you're often in the middle of some sort of meeting. You may be called to have a meeting for an individual education plan for a special needs student, or maybe you're looking at meeting with a parent to talk about some issues with the student's learning, or maybe it's just a meeting on how we're doing with aligning it to the Common Core standards, or our own curriculum. How is it that we're going to meet our adequate yearly progress and to meet state goals set for our school, so that your day becomes jam-packed. That doing any sort of professional development for yourself during the school day is nearly impossible. You then get into your after school, where maybe you're running an after school program to earn some additional monies. As an educator, at least here in America, we're severely underpaid for the amount of education that we have and the amount of work we put in. So you're often trying to offset your salary with working another job, or whether it be an after school program or rushing off to work in something else as a waiter or waitress or something at a restaurant, or some other sort of after school activity that you may be working in. And then you have your take home work. So you get home in the evening and you're pulling out your paperwork and you're doing your correcting that you didn't have time to get to during the day, because going back to your classroom schedule, this classroom schedule can often be jam-packed with you needing to be on show all day long, and that if you're stopping and giving kids busy work in the form of things that they can work on a worksheet, they're getting distracted, or they're not engaged and becoming a disruption to the class, that you're often constantly trying to keep learning moving forward in an interactive, engaging way, which therefore doesn't allow you time to do all the correcting that needs to get done. So at night you're sitting up and you're correcting and you're writing your lesson plans and you're planning for the next day, that it isn't until after dinner, after you've gotten the kids to their after school activities, after they're in bed, that at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, you are sitting down and now you are looking at, geez, now I need to professionally develop myself. How do I prepare myself to be an educator in this 21st century of learning? And how do I really teach in a way that keeps up with the students? Because often they're coming to school with more knowledge of this technology than we do. They are living on it at home. Their parents are providing them with things like iPod touches or Kindles or iPad, or they have their own computer. Maybe they're playing on a video game system such as the Wii or something. And now they're coming to school and we're telling them, whoa, we don't have all that equipment, or I don't feel comfortable with it. So you need to power down. You need to shut all this stuff off so we can do our learning for the day, and the student is put in a situation where they seem to be in a different world. It's not anything that they're familiar with. So we have to really look at how do we integrate this technology? How do we keep them engaged, and how do we keep them in a position that's familiar to them, that when they need to learn something at home, often they go on the computer and they find out. So how can we integrate that into our classroom as well? So then you look at that very little time for professional development. A lot of times that gets pushed off to vacations and your time off. But as an educator, after doing everything we just talked about, what is your vacation time really? It's probably a time for relaxation. That time that you've put off on, going somewhere with a family or just sitting back and getting a breather. You're taking a few weeks of relaxation. Going somewhere, traveling, doing something, seeing the world, or maybe you're preparing for the next year's lessons. You're gathering materials. You're going out to the store and you're purchasing some additional supplies for the following year that maybe aren't able to be supplied to you in your school. Or maybe you are signing up for some professional development, or maybe you're working another job so that you can once again offset some of that salary that isn't paid to you. So the time spent for professional development, it's awfully difficult to do in any sort of scheduled way. And what is it we have to do for professional development? We have to seek to make sure that we stay current, at least here in America, in our certification. You have to be certified to teach, and you have to make sure that you've been trained in the courseware that you need. It needs to be sometimes directed. I know in my district was often assigning professional development to people, saying that our new focus within the district is to look at reading. So we're going to have you attend a reading professional development. And for some people, it's not only inconvenient, it's not interesting. It's not on a time schedule that works for our educators. They're doing it after school and having to put off some of the other things we talked about in after school. They're sitting in something that's not associated with what they teach. So therefore, they're not interested in it, and they're losing interest. So what happens is an educator often has to find their own online self-directed professional development where they can go online, find what it is that they're interested in, sign up for it. But the problem becomes, well, where do we start? As an educator who has to keep current with all the subjects, logging onto the internet can be overwhelming. To sit down and say, okay, I need to find some sort of professional development on using wikis, because it sounds interesting to me to have my kids engaged in the form of a wiki, but really, what is a wiki? How do I integrate that into my lessons? Where do I find resources for that? So the options are often great, and so aren't the resources, but which ones are the best is often confusing. Oh, here's the